it's Barbara from Divine Creative Love, and I'm excited to bring you this new Christmas Bible journaling tutorial. We're going to be focusing on Luke chapter 2 and the story of Jesus' birth as told in that chapter, especially on verses 10 through 12, where the angel of the Lord appears to the shepherds and shares with them the good news about Jesus being born. So I picked out a stamp set that we're going to use. It's from Creative Worship Stamps. And I specifically chose the little ornament, the nativity ornament, and also the O Holy Night song lyrics. So those are the two stamps that I'm going to be using. Of course, you could use some other ones. There's lots of other great ones in this stamp set. And then I chose this music note stencil to go with, since those are song lyrics from O Holy Night. So I'm speeding up the video here. It took me about 45 minutes altogether to do this page. So I have this Paul Rubens watercolor set that I got off Amazon that I'm going to be using for the background. If y'all have seen my videos before, you know I usually like to start with a light colored background for the page. And usually I would use some of my gelatos sets for that, but I decided to try something a little different this time and use these metallic watercolors since they're just really pretty colors, and I wanted to see how they would do as a background. So you can see I'm just adding a few drops of water and then picking up some of the color and then painting and then adding some more drops of water, and it's a little bit different process than what I usually use the gelatos. And I really do think that I still prefer the gelatos for creating a background like this, but I wanted to try something different and just see how it works. The Paul Rubens watercolors, they required a lot more water, and so you can see how it's making the page all wrinkled, and it just is a little bit messier than the gelatos in a way. So anyway, I just wanted to try something different this time. And you can see I'm just spreading the color all across the page. Just a really light blue color. And another thing about these watercolors that I noticed is that the little palettes are so small. It is kind of harder to get like the big brush that I was using in there and use it as a background. So that's another thing that I think this watercolor set is better for, like more detailed, like things that you would use a smaller brush for. But it still did the trick for this, and you can see how like wet it made the page there. So I had to dry it all kind of front and back. And I forgot to mention when I started, even when you're using the illustrating Bible, always use a piece of cardstock paper behind the page, just to protect the page behind it. Because even though it doesn't require any prep on the page, it still can, like, you can end up with some paint, on the page behind it. So then I was just going back in with a little bit more color in some of the spots that I thought looked like they needed a little bit more color. And if you want to try something different than what I'm using, a lot of different paints or watercolors could work for a background like this. So, you could use a different brand of watercolors, or even like some watered down acrylic paint if you water it down really good and make it thin enough. So it's not just, this one kind of thing that you could use for a background. And of course you can use, more than one color, or, one color for the margin and another color for the text. So the next step that I did is I created this circle outline that's the same shape and size as the little nativity ornament stamp, because I wanted to add darker color background for that little nativity. And I knew if I waited until after stamping it to add the color, it would smudge the ink on the stamp. So I went in, before putting the stamp in, to add the background color. So you can see I'm using a smaller brush for this step, and I used less water, so then I'm picking up a lot more of that pigment, which is a really pretty color. think this is what makes this watercolor set stand out more, is like when you use it with less water, that it's a really pretty color. And then I just want to dry that new paint, and you can see it came through a little bit more on the back side of the page, but not that much. And you'll notice how wrinkled the watercolors made the page, but that's okay because it's going to flatten out. Like once I close the Bible and leave it that way for a day or two, it flattens out nicely. So that's not a big deal. So now I chose this royal blue color for the nativity stamp. And I'm just making sure it's plenty of ink on there. And then I was very careful to position it just right over that circle that I made. But you can see like on the left edge there was a little bit of blue that still showed like outside the lines, but really it turned out pretty awesome. Like I couldn't have asked for a better result than that. So now what I'm doing is I took this Tombow twin tone pen, and I was going to make it this little string and a little ribbon to make it look like, a little nativity ornament kind of like dropping down from heaven. But I wasn't very happy with how that pen was working. Like the ink didn't look right, and it wasn't working very well on top of that heavier watercolor. So I just moved on and took this Jelly Roll metallic pen and wrote the words "Love Came Down" in the purple. And then I decided I liked that so much that I just decided to color over the blue ribbon with the purple gel pen. And that's one of the really awesome things that I love about gel pens. They're very opaque, most of them, so you can use them to color over something. If you make a mistake or you have another color that you use that you didn't like, then just take your gel pen and just color over it, and it's very opaque, so it works very good for covering up, either mistakes or, if you just want to color on top of another color. So that turned out really sweet. So the next thing I did was I took the music notes stencil. I'm going to create sort of a background for those "Oh Holy Night" lyrics. And for this I am using my favorite gelatos. This is a purple color from the metallic gelatos set. And I'm just spraying some water on it to turn into sort of a watercolor. And then I've got this little sponge dauber that I'm using to put down on the stencil, and I'm just using like an up and down kind of motion, like nothing side to side, just making sure that I don't smudge the stencil. And you can see that turned out pretty good. Like I can see one treble clef there in the top left that got a little smudged, but for the most part it turned out really awesome. And then just drying that a little bit. And come back in with that royal blue color, and I'm going to stamp the "Oh Holy Night" lyrics right in the middle of those music notes. Just making sure it gets loaded really good with ink, and then I gave it a really firm push to make sure it get good contact with the page, and you see that turned out amazing. So for the next step, I decided to go ahead and outline the verse using the same Jelly Roll metallic pen that I used earlier. And I'm just using the little index card piece to get the lines straight. And since Luke chapter 2 goes on to the next page, I decided to leave it open on the bottom and the side. And then I'm underlining verses 10 through 12, which says, "Don't be afraid. For look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today in the city of David a Savior was born to you, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped tightly in cloth and lying in a manger." So the next thing I did is I thought that the song lyrics needed a little bit something more above them. So I went in and just added some lines to kind of emphasize the sound of singing going up to heaven. And I think that really gave it that little extra emphasis that it needed. And it actually turned out so cute. It's like, love came down from heaven and our praise should go up to heaven. That's kind of what it signifies to me. And I really like the way that turned out. Like the love, God's love came down, and our worship should go up. And then for one last little step, I thought it needed something a little more down below, so I added the little hearts with the same blue metallic gel pen. I just really love how this page turned out. It's just so precious and so symbolic of God giving us the greatest gift in Jesus, and He is worthy of all our praise. And I love how this page symbolizes that. And you can see, for the most part, nothing bled through except for that one little spot there that it was the Tombow twin tone pen that I used that I ended up covering up anyway, that just bled through a little bit. But for the most part, this illustrating Bible works pretty good to keep things from bleeding through because of how thick the paper is. And yeah, again, it just turned out so awesome. Love came down and our praise should go up. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, be sure and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future videos. And I'll see you next time.